Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. Today we are going to talk about the tale of two largest democracies in the world, United States and India. United States is the oldest, strongest democracy. India is the largest democracy in the world. Both these countries have leadership today of Mr. Narendra Modi and Donald Trump, which are, in my opinion, slightly right of center. I don't know what they do, but philosophically and intellectually, the left media, liberal media, and the left is completely gone berserk over doing everything to ensure that these people don't last long in their positions of power. But ironically, Mr. Narendra Modi won a very handsome majority in India, and his second term is on. At this point in time, his single party has a full majority. However, it is a very interesting thing that you have a situation that just a few months ago, he won with a handsome majority, but in the states of Maharashtra and Haryana, the state elections that followed, it was expected, all the exit polls showed that BJP and the alliance will do very well, and NCP led by Sharad Pawar and Congress will get wiped out. On the contrary, BJP did not get single party majority in Maharashtra, and they barely scraped past in Haryana. That is a very interesting dynamics of Indian politics. Somewhere along the line, the satrap mentality of Indian states does come into play. But that throws up another issue, that right now we are witnessing a massive clash of personalities and parties of alliance partners, BJP and Shiv Sena. And Shiv Sena is literally asking for, as a Shylock's pound of flesh. They want chief minister's position to be shared half and half, in addition to a major say in all the cabinet positions. And there is a complete chaos. So much so that the Shiv Sena spokesman has been saying that we have support of 170 members. God knows, even Sharad Pawar asked, where is that number coming from? So it is a very chaotic situation, not happy situation for those who wanted a strong Maharashtra, a strong Haryana. To discuss this, plus the United States is going through, this year is going to be a real epochal event in terms of Mr. Trump's re-election, impeachment, and all that is going on. To discuss these two hot political scenarios, I have the pleasure of welcoming a very dear friend, Dr. Raj Bhayani, who I believe everybody in the audience knows, all of you who are watching. So I will not make an introduction about Dr. Raj Bhayani, because he is a very lone figure, a very active community member, a leadership role in physicians community. And it's really privileged to have you here, Raj. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So knowing India the way you do, the BJP supporters that both you and I are, how do you see the Maharashtra situation evolving? Do you think that this government has to go, a new government has to come? BJP, Shiv Sena is playing complete truant, is that they want their pound of flesh. Even Shakespeare must be turning in his grave, literally. So the point is, how do you think this will shape up?
I think my prediction is most likely it will settle the differences between BJP and Shiv Sena if they are thinking right, and if they want the unity of Maharashtras and Marathas, then it's in the best interest they should settle and compromise. Having said that, Shiv Sena has been increasingly becoming a little belligerent and more aggressive, and there has been actually open talk about 25 MLAs of Shiv Sena will defect if Shiv Sena comes to government with help of Sharad Pawar and his well-known politics, which has not served Maharashtra any good over last 75 years. BJP government under Fadnavis has done extremely well. They have done amazing job. The corruption in Maharashtra is significantly down. So a lot of people are aware of that. So good people really want this government to continue. Of course, Sharad Pawar gained some seats, and it was surprise to most people who were watching it. But Sharad Pawar is known to be a very shrewd politician, and he always have sided with the power for the self than the interests of Maharashtra people. And so it remains to be seen the trap which he is setting up for Shiv Sena. If Shiv Sena is so foolish to get in the trap, or they'll be smart enough to keep working with BJP, where they share ideology and they share the future and they share the past. So just because Uddhav Thackeray has his blind ambition like Dhritarashtra, having Duryodhana become the king of Hastinapur, so Uddhav Thackeray wants Aditya Thackeray to become the chief minister of Maharashtra. That blind ambition will meet the fate of what Mahabharata happened. It may be there's some short-term gain Shiv Sena will get, but in long run, they will destroy themselves.
This is, like some of the Shiv Sena supporters who we know, and I know personally, you know a lot of them.
Right.
They have been saying that this is a negotiation ploy.
Yes.
And there is a time when you negotiate for maximum gain for yourself.
Correct.
And, I opine, I get that point. I get that point. But this was the moment to showcase unity. This was not a moment, in my opinion, for skullduggery. What Shiv Sena is doing, unfortunately, is that the last 5 years, in 2014 to 2019, they have abused BJP left, right, and center. And one wondered what kind of a partnership it is going to be if you are abusing your senior partner in the manner that you are doing. The point also is important here because Shiv Sena has lost the goodwill. Because here was the situation where Prime Minister Modi is driving the wagon of goodwill of the people of India. By Shiv Sena doing what they are doing, they are losing the goodwill, and they are not realizing that.
Yeah.
That instead of Shiv Sena or Shivaji Sena, they are neither. Right now, they are looking like Thackeray Sena.
Not even Thackeray.
That
In
Thackeray
fact, Bal
Sena-
Thackeray
Yeah.
would be turning in his grave
Yeah.
by looking at the power grab ploy set up by the Sanjay Raut,
Right.
who is acting like Ahmed Patel of Congress Party, like a power broker, where he can get the most out of it. He's trying to negotiate with Sharad Pawar, he's trying to negotiate with Gandhis and like NCP and Congress Party, and at the same time he's negotiating with Gadkari and Amit Shah and Fadnavis.
The point here is also very important. Here,
Right.
think about it like this. I mean, if I am Shiv Sena leader right now, I am looking like Rahul Gandhi's Pappu Party, Congress Party.
Right.
You are nothing else but a family limited partnership of Thackeray's.
Right.
And you are bringing in Aditya Thackeray, who has no experience.
No qualification, no experience.
That is something the family, the inexperience,
Right.
is the ground on which you fought against Congress Party.
Yes.
And you are becoming just like them. So people have become very aware and conscious that what is Shiv Sena doing? How different are they really from the Congress Party?
That's right.
So as a BJP supporter and NDA supporter, I look at it from this point of view. What kind of a partnership is Shiv Sena offering to BJP? And that's what is really sad. That instead of showcasing Hindu unity, they are showing a satrap mentality that I'll grab power. And I think that's really bad for Maharashtra as a state and state politics. And it's truly sad that even at this stage of politics, they are hobnobbing with Sharad Pawar and Congress to become the chief minister. How long will that last?
It won't.
What do you think?
It won't last too long. If this happens, people are expecting election coming soon. And it's like Abail Mujamar situation, or you're trying to dig your own grave. Means there is a point where, as you said, negotiations you can stretch, but how much you want to stretch to the point of break, That smartness has to come.
Right.
And Uddhav Thackeray, as you know, he was never actually leader. He become leader or in charge of the party, just only one qualification, which is son of Balasaheb Thackeray. Raj Thackeray, actually, who is his cousin brother, who was Balasaheb Thackeray's brother's son, he was actually very much into politics. Uddhav was doing nothing, he was just running around everywhere. And when Balasaheb Thackeray passed away, Raj Thackeray actually stabilized it, and then eventually, just because of bloodline mentality of Indian politics, he eventually took over the Shiv Sena. And then Raj Thackeray had to start
MNS,
Maharashtra Navnirman Sema. And unfortunately, he also had many blunders he made, and he couldn't get the traction in Maharashtra. So, and then he eventually went and made the Sharad Pawar's party. Eventually, he joined, and he actually was canvassing for Sharad Pawar party, and they didn't make any member of parliament election. They lost very badly. So, Shiv Sena is in turmoil. There is no question about it. And by doing this Dhritarashtra style politics in Shiv Sena and in Maharashtra, I don't think voters are going to like it. Obviously, the BJP and RSS cadre is very upset about it, and I think it's the beginning of the end of relationship in long term between Shiv Sena and BJP, and BJP most likely would not even entertain them next time.
I would not. I mean, no, the question is not, political. Politics makes strange bedfellows, which is true. I mean, you have alliances, people leave a party and join another party. But when you are continuously abusing, you began to abuse even Modi.
Yeah.
And that is something, Modi has not done any evil. Modi has been uniting the country. He has been bringing about a Hindu unity, and you bring there a question. Mr. Modi has been an exemplar in terms of creating Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka whatever, even though the Muslims don't vote for BJP. Even though in the state elections, as we saw, the party did not get the required votes. Even then, he's trying very hard. And in his leadership that he has done. So you abandon the goodwill train that Mr. Modi is driving through the country to this despair just because you want to say that I will hold the brake. That is something brings me to another issue. In 1941 census, if you look at, there were 145,000 British in this country, plus women and children. They ruled us millions, exploiting this very element of our Hindu life, divide and rule. They used us, our police force, our people in their police force, our people in their military to quell any rebellion or call for freedom. And we let that happen. The British divided us as they wished, as if they owned India, right? And that is what is saddening me in this situation, that this is the moment for the unity to happen, it doesn't.
See, as unfortunate as it is, what has happened is not keeping ourselves united as Hindus has been a curse on India for thousands of years.
Yes.
Let's go back all the way when Aurangzeb was there, and then Shah Jahan was there, and everybody was there. How many Muslims were there? And how many Hindus were there that time too? That time also majority were Hindus. However, when one king, or suppose the Rajputs were fighting with Mughals, nobody from Orissa or Maharashtra or Madhya Pradesh is going and joining them.
Right.
Or when Shivaji is fighting with Aurangzeb, none of the Rajputs or Sikhs are attacking the Mughals.
Right.
So we have not learned from our history, and to the point that in fact when this guy came, Puru Raja, remember that Porus, and then he had a defected guy, what we call Jaichand, and all these backstabbers of Hindus are going against Hindus. So it's been there for a long time.
I mean, you touched upon a very important part, that if you do not learn from your history, then you allow history to repeat itself.
Yeah.
And those who do not learn from history learn the lessons in a very harsh way. And I sincerely hope and pray that things in India become better than in terms of unity factor, whether it's Maharashtra or Haryana. Haryana, they manage the coalition well. But in Maharashtra, I hope, because Maharashtra is a big state, it has Bombay, which is the financial capital of the country. The whole world is watching. And if this happens, then it has a negative impact on movement of capital, investments, and everything else. We will be back right after this short break. Welcome back. Jumping into the next element is the economics of India, the economy of India. How will the industrialization, if the Make in India program would be a success? Mr. Modi has one very big challenge on hand. India's demographic dividend, which has been talked about a lot, must not be allowed to become a demographic burden. That's important. In a recent event, India walked out of Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which was a partnership of Asian nations, ASEAN nations, there are 10 countries there, and Malaysia, Japan, Australia, and India and China. India walked out of that. That's a very historic decision that Prime Minister Modi took to withdraw from there, and including, prior to that, India has also withdrawn from TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So the two major economic trade blocs in India is out of that. In Asia, India is out of that. So it brings about a very different issue here, and that is both the United States and India are out of various trade negotiations and trade partnerships. This is again a very important point. That's why I said in the opening that this is the story of two largest democracies who have withdrawn from various international agreements of trade because of their domestic requirements. Now, this is very important to understand that trade has happened all over the time. Trade goes on, whether we like it or not. You buy and you sell, you import, you export. But if you are a net importer nation, then you become the largest consumer nations, which is what India's 1.3 billion people do. They need goods and services to consume, and the United States is largest importer nation, consumer nation in the world. But the challenge is that puts pressure on your trade deficits, which then balloons into currency crisis. India has a currency crisis. Thanks to dollar, US doesn't have that problem, but the trade deficits are running in the US in trillions, and in India has trade deficits with most of the countries. The question here is, why did these countries, United States and India, are realigning the trade agreements? And one of the reasons for that is, unless and until you become a net export-driven economy, your imports are all for consumption. It's like an interest burden that comes on you. So going forward on this, I think Mr. Modi has the desire to make India a major powerhouse of construction and manufacturing business, given the opportunity that India offers. And he's trying to curb the consumption and make India an export surplus country. And that's why the focus on Make in India. Your thoughts on that?
That is correct. See, if this agreement would have been signed, about 90% of the products or things we use in India would have been imported and flooded. Indian markets would have been flooded with the products from everywhere, especially China, Malaysia, Indonesia, and every one of the country which is you mentioned, they would have been grabbing the Indian market for free. And so you have to weigh the pros and cons of any deal. Okay, what am I getting and what I'm giving out? So here, we were not getting any benefit. It was pretty obvious, because as unfortunate as this situation is, India doesn't have, except our software and some diamond industry which is doing well, we don't have that many products which we can sell to these countries, this 10-country bloc. While they have everything which is made cheaper there, and they can flood our market, which would have destroyed the business manufacturing in India So it was a very wise decision. Is it a bold decision? And people might criticize it, but it was absolutely needed at this time. Obviously, India has an option of joining that partnership in future. So I think our focus should be that we need to become independent, and as you said, we have to be a manufacturing hub, so that when time comes and when we join, we need to be able to export things rather than import.
And this is very important because exporting things makes the country stronger. Now think about it for a moment. When you export your goods and services, what happens is the quality has to be top class. Then only somebody will buy.
And the price.
And the price. So as a result of which, India has that advantage of the manpower, which is a skilled manpower, may not be easily employable manpower, but there are people there who are educated and young. They are willing to work. So unless and until we begin to manufacture top quality items, you don't become an economic power. Look at example of South Korea, a small country, but its products are all over the world. Look at Japan. Japan is a complete economy that imported raw materials only to export. So they drove with a sustained policy of importing raw materials only to export. That's how they built their made in Japan, made in Korea, made in USA, became world famous. But think about it like this. When Russia collapsed, remember that, when USSR collapsed as a country, nobody in the world missed Russia because Russia did not manufacture anything except for Lada car and space Sputnik. There was no Russian goods or manufactured items in anywhere in the world. China learned that lesson very quickly, and that is how they became home to all American enterprise to manufacture and bring back cheaper goods to America, increasing their profitability. So in terms of pure geopolitical economic game, China was far ahead in its thinking, and we lagged behind. I remember a day here in Indian consulate when the Chinese trade surplus with US had jumped to $42 billion. Remember, $42 billion. And there were people from America who were telling that if you just took 10% of what is going to China, you will provide us a major alternate and it will help your economy. But those days, that time, government and bureaucracy was not receptive to the idea because we were so wedded to the socialist principles and there was so much anti-Americanism in the Indian context because of Communist Party. That needs to change. Thankfully, Communist Party is not there, but to bring back that revolution of manufacturing, India has to learn one thing very clearly, that Mr. Modi had mentioned in his previous term that government has no business to be in business. But somewhere along the line, the bureaucracy still wants to be in the business of business. So unless and until we open the economy and welcome the investments, and I use the word Mahalakshmi, you welcome Mahalakshmi, you will be able to accumulate Mahalakshmi. That's the point which I'm trying to drive at. What do you think about that?
It's welcoming Mahalakshmi in the sense that investing to be in India, but to not to sell the products, but to manufacture.
Manufacture. I'm talking about manufacturing. Yeah. So, my focus is entirely on manufacturing.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Because the advantage which India has is, as we know, 1.3 billion people, which is one of the second largest market as we see, our country in the world, which is the best consumer domain one can get to sell the products. But if we don't manufacture and sell in India, then we always importing stuff from China and Japan and Korea and USA and anywhere else, and Europe, of course. Germany sells a lot of good the equipments also. So those things.
Just silence your phone.
Yeah, those things are absolutely important that we manufacture these in our country and sell there. It's a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, look at it
for
this
all
way,
high-tech people coming in.
Yeah.
And in that process, what's going to happen is innovation will happen. Our Indian citizens will learn this technology, and they can take it to notch up. We are smart, means it's not like we haven't been able to create certain things, but our environment last 70 years was not meant for innovation. There was no push for creating entrepreneurs. There was no push for people to generate a mass population where they will be manufacturing things in India. But last five years it's been changing. So we should take advantage of this policy, focus on that, and this is the turning point in India where we are focused on this policy of Make in India,
Right.
as Modi said.
Right.
Now, if we flood our markets with this Asian pact, we are killing ourselves. We will shut down our innovation. We shut down our entrepreneurship. We will make our markets open to cheap products, and we'll be depending on, as now, as you see, what happened to Greece and Spain. Greece and Spain used to be wonderful economy just 10, 15 years back, but they stopped manufacturing. And now their economy is completely dependent on euro.
Correct.
Well, the Germany and UK, and now UK is out, and France are feeding rest of the Europe countries now, because all other European countries, they are not producing anything. They are dependent on financial help for the European Union, which is dragged upon Germany and France.
That's a very good point, because that's where the Chinese are very good at. And India has to remember that India has China in its northeast. That is really become a power economy because they are manufacturing, which is what has created a massive sovereign fund of China, and they are able to use those funds in capturing raw materials from rest of the world. So India must learn that lesson, that you cannot allow unhindered imports into the country, which will eventually hurt the economy, and the massive demographic dividend will turn into demographic burden. Because if you are not manufacturing, if you're only importing, it does bring in, you rightly said, it brings in a lethargy. Why make if I'm getting something cheap?
Cheap.
It is only when you
stop innovation.
Yeah, you stop innovation. Sasta aa gaya.
And eventually, at least Spain and Italy had big brothers like Germany and France
Right.
supporting their economy.
Correct.
Who's supporting India?
That's right.
Everybody around us wants us to fail.
Right.
So that is absolute. And ironically, the willingness to join Asian was started by Congress government actually.
Right.
And they, as you know, how short-sighted Congress have been all along, they wanted to join.
Right.
They were part of the negotiation. So Modi has the guts to pull it out at this point. I think that's what's needed.
And this is very important, because the important part is here is that trade, export, India to become an export nation has to import technology. And that's what Make in India initiative is important. But India has a massive burden of gigantic public sector undertakings who were great at one point in time, but in terms of international competition, they could not ratchet up to that level. Because there are certain inside stories that people know. If you say it will be an explosive story to tell, but believe it or not, there was a major public sector undertaking, manufacturing, that did not win a single international tender for 3 consecutive years.
Years or decades?
3 years. I will just say 3 years.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
until we means I don't think there is any, except some Tata products and some Reliance
No,
products.
some of them have been doing good
But this is
construction
not
work
this is not
in
public
Afghanistan and
undertaking.
Yeah, no.
But overall, our contribution to the world is mostly software,
Right.
which is not a manufacturing thing.
Correct.
And that's unfortunate, because we call ourselves intellectuals, we call ourselves hardworking. At the same time, innovation-wise, we rank very low in the world.
Right.
And innovation is the one which leads the manufacturing, and manufacturing will lead the economy.
True. We will be back right after this short break. Welcome back. Coming to this segment, we will spend a few moments on talking about Kashmir, Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. India recently revised the map, looks great in the new dispensation. Obviously, Pakistan did not accept it. But the question that comes to my mind all the time, and this is what I have, in my interactions I have learned, is whether India will continue the push that is required to achieve the desired goal. It is important to know that we did not take advantage. See, we have been a country that has been sermonized by the rest of the world, as if all human rights violations happen in India, and India has to account for being perfect, because not everybody should do that. So Mufti Muhammad's daughter gives a speech, gives an interview. She says that this is not the country she was born in, and she forgot that she was part of the state mechanism where 300,000 plus Kashmiris were thrown out, raped, brutally humiliated, and nobody, the Western media had nothing to talk about that. Is it our own fault that we do not know how to create the issues that are important to humanity as a whole? So the question that arises, like for example, look at it this way. NBA buckled down to China, and China has refused to telecast their games because one Houston Rockets GM had talked about Hong Kong. Now the question arises that you need, in the previous segments we talked about economic power. If we had the economic power, we would have been able to dictate the terms. So the question here is, what needs to happen? How do we take advantage of the international going on that we can take the narrative and shift the storyline?
So over the years, as we as Indian are never proactive, our approach is more of reactive. So that is a major drawback of our overall personality or the culture. We are very laid back in the sense that we are not very aggressive, we are not very dominating people, and that's the nature of Indians in general. And I would say Hindus when I say Indians. So what has happened is, when the Kashmir issue is burning and when the Congress party is sitting in Delhi, what did they do? They did nothing, literally nothing. No army was sent to protect the Kashmiris who were getting, there was a fatwa in Kashmir, you leave tonight or your daughters and wives and all the ladies in your house will be converted into Islam and will be married to, and you will all be killed. There is an open fatwa, and I don't recall who was the prime minister that time, the VP Singh or one of those guys. Yeah, there is nothing. They didn't raise the issue internationally, they didn't raise the issue locally, they just neglected and let the Kashmiris die. So this is the irony of Indians, or misfortune of Indians, is that we were ruled by these kind of people for so long that if we would have created the push from that time, that look, whatever is happening in Kashmir since those time is unfair, and it was absolutely atrocious, and these Muslims in Kashmir were killing the Hind Pandits of Kashmir, and they were driven out from the Kashmir, and they become like in our own country.
Yeah, they were refugees.
They become refugees.
And that's what is important.
And who raised the points anywhere in the world?
Right.
Nobody.
The Kashmiri Hindus are unhappy with India,
Yeah.
whereas they should be unhappy with the Congress party.
Yeah.
Likewise, when the Sikh genocide that happened in 1984, even today in one of the publications I read, they blamed Hindus for killing Sikhs. And I said, it's not Hindus who killed Sikhs in retaliation. It was the Congress party people who did that. So don't blame or frame Hindus as if we are the tyrants and we are the killers. It is just the opposite.
Right.
Actually.
So we have lost the grip of the problem since that time.
Right.
Now, since Modi came, things have changed. Means people criticize why Modi travels all over but this is the reason he travels.
Right.
That he made personalized connection with all the major country leaders, including Middle East countries, which are Muslim countries, by the way. So when this Kashmir was taken over by abolishing Article 370, nobody even stood by Pakistan.
Right.
But what happened was, as we see, the left media and Democratic Party in America and Labour Party in UK, which has been very much dominated by some funds coming from Middle East or Pakistan, and so they are raising issues. There also we are in a way ineffective to counter those three segments. Everywhere else, Modi single-handedly pulled off the removing the opposition to this Article 370.
Right.
But the grassroots work which we have to do as Indians living in America or the Indians living in UK, we have failed there.
We have failed there, and this takes me back actually
We have.
to a narrative which one senator once told me, that we love you Indians as immigrants to the country because you are professionals, you are hardworking,
Right.
you have highest median income, you are least problem on the law and order side.
Right.
You have family values, you take care of your children, and you ask for nothing.
Right.
The question here is, when will Indian community build a clout? And that is important. Just being good is not enough. We are contributing a lot to this country. It's time that Indians as a whole built a clout. And that clout can be built, in my opinion, again, not in a presidential election, but the ground level, interactions in counties, in the state legislature, where our votes will count. So when you have a county elections, people win by 100 votes margins, that's where you can make a difference. If you're able to influence that, I think that will have a good effect. Top down is good. Try your personal relationship with as many top bureaucrats or senators and congressmen. At the same time, do not ignore the local elections. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I may slightly counter to that.
Okay.
See, as Indians, we are about 3.5 million, 4 million
Correct.
people. And so we are very minority. So we will not be able to bring attention by voting. Means I've been saying all along, Indians in this country are second richest minorities actually in this country.
Right.
We donate money on the temples, we donate money on things like weddings, and we donate money on doing a wonderful Diwali gala and get some 500 Indians together and enjoy. We have absolute zero inclination to get involved in the political process. And political process means pack. Unless the Indian peoples come together and donate to the campaigns of the politicians, we will not be noticed. Because by numbers, we are very small.
Right.
We cannot make a difference in the election unless very few reach hundreds by hundreds. So that's not going to make a difference. Only thing which will make a difference is all of us open a checkbook and get our credit cards out and find the candidates who are aligned with India, who are aligned with Hindus, who are aligned with Indian people in this country and Indian community all over the world. So find those 50 congressmen, 10 to 20 senators, and 5 governors.
But we have the caucuses, we have the...
They do
India
nothing.
caucus. They do
They're
nothing.
doing nothing because the caucuses are just for the namesake. When this Kashmir issue happened, tell me what India caucus did.
Right, nothing.
No, nothing. Why? Why? Because we don't donate money.
And they had no interest in raising the issue because,
No.
as you rightly said, they had no motivation to do that.
If we don't incentivize them with the campaign finance, we will never be able to get their attention. We will never be able to get their persuasion to stand by India and Indian cause. Even though morally we are 100% right about taking over Kashmir, we lost the narrative in media as well as the politicians only because we Indians in this country tend to stay, as we call, what is they called, the ostrich. We are ostriches in this country.
Right. Well, just because I'm good, everybody must like me.
No, it's not even that. I don't even care that. I am an ostrich. I put my head in the sand and think everything else in the world is great.
Great.
So that has to stop.
Yeah.
We have to look around, learn from other parties, see what Jewish people are equally minority in this country,
Right.
how much they influence the political process, what they do for that, and what we do for that. You ask somebody to, let's do one fundraiser for congressman. What they want to do is they want congressman to come to their house and have wonderful photographs and call their 20 friends.
Correct.
And that's it.
That's it.
That's very ineffective.
Very ineffective.
As one
yeah.
Indian community, everybody wants the credit that, oh, that person came to my house and I had a great photo shoot with him, and that's it. But when time comes, is that congressman going to stand for the cause you believe in?
Right.
Have you demanded that?
And
have you put that precondition?
That's exactly what we saw
Yeah.
when so many Indian congressmen, 5 or 6 of them, they did not support India's Kashmir stand.
Yeah.
That was remarkably shocking.
And that's
what I mean to say. Indians need to awaken, arise, and get involved. That's what is important. The other part which I wanted to touch base quickly is there is a lot of preparation going on in India about Ayodhya judgment, which is likely to come in the next few days.
Right.
And the preparations are going big time. We are not soothsayers. We are not the, the predictors of the outcome. But what do you think is going to happen in one sentence? Do you think
it's going to happen?
Is going to happen?
Yeah.
Ram Mandir will be
It's
built
gonna
there.
happen.
Great.
Yes.
Great. That's important. Let's go back to the American politics, which is very important. In the last couple of weeks, we have seen the impeachment saga begin again. Trump has survived the Mueller report. Now you have Ukraine happening. Quid pro quo is being talked about. Now impeachment inquiry is going to happen, not impeachment proceedings. But what was interesting is to see the news that 19 minutes into his swearing in, Washington Post had written an article in which to say, now let the impeachment process begin. And in 2017, one of the whistleblowers' attorney had said that, let this process begin, impeachment will happen, Trump will not be the second term. He will not be allowed to complete his first term. Now, we know that there are games played in highest places. We are seeing a real polarization and complete, sadness in the way the political parties of the largest democracy in the world have become separated. That nobody looks eye to eye on any issue that concerns the country. And Democrats, ever since they have won the Congress, the only mantra they have talked about is impeachment. And nothing has happened. How do you see this unfolding in this upcoming election year? We have 2 minutes. Let's talk about this.
Yes, as you rightly said, the Trump winning presidency was a total shock to, I would say, all the Democrats and almost all over the world.
Right.
People thought that Hillary is going to have this easy show in because Trump has so many issues during election, all that stuff.
Right.
So that they haven't been able to digest until now, that Trump has won the presidency and let him work.
Right.
So they're going to be after him, and they will not succeed even this impeachment because Republican Senate majority will not let it happen. So this is just a distraction ploy. It has no outcome, no meaning. As same as Mueller drama went on, nothing came out of it. Nothing is going to happen out of this impeachment.
Nothing. And what is important here is that we know that for Senate to pass the impeachment, if the House approves it, they have to have 60 members, or so, I think more than that.
Yeah, two-thirds
majority, which means about 19 Republicans have to go over to do, and that's not happening.
No.
Because Trump's achievements on economy, maybe he is, intemperate in his speeches and tweets, but that's the person that the country
the
elected.
question is, what is actually impeachable offense?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where it comes to.
Right.
And if you see opinion polls, nobody really cares. Okay, what he asked for was, did he ask some money for himself or something?
No, the thing there is that he is supposedly asked that investigate Biden and his son.
I think that's
and that
that's
was
fair.
a corruption issue.
And that's a fair thing. If Biden and his son haven't done anything wrong and he's asking him to investigate, who cares? It's very simple.
Right.
You are asking somebody to investigate third person. If that third person hasn't done anything wrong, how does it even matter? Does he asking me, okay, give my son some factory in Ukraine? No. that's probably personal gain. Is he getting any personal gain out of this, whatever he ordered? Common sense dictates that there is no personal gain. Maybe he will smear Biden by this starting campaign, and Biden will have some problem winning the presidency. But in polls, he's below in anyway.
Right.
And Warren is ahead in the polls, which is another thing which to be discussed. And all she wants is make everything free for everybody.
We are seeing as it happens, every conversation has to come to an end in that moment. This conversation ends now, but there are a couple of issues which are very important, which I want to share with you. Is there's a lot of hate going around everywhere. Either it's my way or highway. So if you do not agree with Republican or Democrat or BJP or Congress, there is so much of hate going around in the world. And just remember one thing, hate cannot have a moral or ethical justification of an action. Hate is hate. It destroys people. It destroys communities. It destroys nations. If you are driven by hate, there is all negativity around. Solutions are not found. And that is something that we will talk about again in later programs. The other thing that I want to cover is about how this country is talking about socialism. Who thought about that? And with these thoughts, have a great weekend. Thank you, Raj, for coming today.
Thank
and
you.
sharing your thoughts.
It's a pleasure.
Have a great weekend, folks. See you next week.